inviting me to come and speak at this event, AI for Good, Innovate for Impact event here in Shanghai, China. We all know that artificial intelligence has become a very important piece of technology that is absolutely necessary to ensure that we can create a sustainable world. And of course, for us to have access to this technology and ensure that no one is absolutely left behind, there are a number of issues that we need to take into account. Firstly is the issue of data. Data is the most essential element of artificial intelligence. Without data, artificial intelligence simply cannot work. But we live at a time where there is parts of the world that are data wealthy, and there are other parts of the world that are data poor. And of course, as the United Nations, through what we are developing now called the Global Digital Compact, the issues of narrowing the data divide is an essential element. How does the issue of data manifest itself? Firstly, data collection. Data collection requires measuring devices. And of course, those measuring devices require financial capital. And not all countries can be able to afford those measuring devices. There's also the issue of data analysis. Data analysis requires skills. Data, when it is measured, is not necessarily ready for use. We need to process it. We need to process it sometimes, and especially if it is of human subjects, respecting the issues of privacy, which are actually grounded by the principle of the Declaration of Human Rights. Then you have the issue of data storage. Where do you store this data? Of course, the easiest solution is to store it in the cloud. And we do know that depending on how far the cloud is, has a fundamental impact on how quickly you can be able to use that data. And therefore, again, there is another divide that is emerging. The divide of people who are closer to data storage facilities or data centers, and those who are far from data centers. And the ones who are closer will obviously be able to deploy applications quicker than the ones who are far. And then, of course, you have the issue of data use. And there are other issues that are very important. The use of synthetic data, which we as the United Nations University have actually issued a policy guideline on the use of synthetic data, taking into account the issue of sustainability. There's other issues that are important, issues of cross-border data, especially to reduce the divide, the data divide. Very, very important. But it must be done with trust. Because if it is not done with trust, we know that if we allow free flow of data, then within that you can have cyber threats that are embedded into that. So there has to be some form of governance that assure the safety of data. Now, the second issue that I want to cover is the issue of algorithms. And of course, when we talk about algorithms in AI, we are primarily talking about neural networks. We're talking about neural networks not because it is the only algorithm of artificial intelligence, it's just the most dominant one. It's actually the one that enables us to do machine learning. And for these algorithms, I think the issue of how do we teach particularly people from the global south to be able to understand these algorithms, because when they understand these algorithms, they're going to be able to deploy them appropriately. There is an organization in Africa known as Deep Learning Indaba, which specifically deals with issues of teaching peoples of Africa algorithms, and this organization is operating across more than 33 countries in the African continent. The United Nations University, which is going to launch an AI institute in Bologna, must play a part in teaching particularly people from the global south, but not only just people from the global south, also people from the global north, how to use these algorithms responsibly. So what are some of the key issues about algorithms? I think the key issue is the issue of algorithmic design, algorithmic training, algorithmic testing and validation. All these are important steps that if they are not done, then AI can actually harm society. And we need to ensure that people have access to this. And of course, some of the harms that have emerged, and I'm going to talk to one particular harm, which is algorithmic biases. And of course, there are two types of algorithmic biases. You have the ones that are avoidable, which means if you do things right, you can avoid them. Then you have the ones that are very difficult to avoid, especially the ones that come from the socio-economic spaces or the demographics. For example, if you have a language that is spoken by 70,000 people, you are never going to have as much data as a language that is spoken by 100 million people. So that bias will be very difficult to eliminate. And of course, the issue of synthetic data is actually done in order to try to bridge that problem. The third issue that I want to talk about is actually the issue of computing. Access to compute is very, very important. When we were working in the global south and we wanted to do quite extensive computation, we normally had to go to buy this compute power from the cloud, from organizations such as Amazon, and of course in China you also have very impressive organizations. And this is not necessarily always accessible. And of course the issue of computing, we talk about access to GPUs. Much of our computers that we use, certainly our PCs and our laptops, actually use CPUs. Now, if you want to run complex and big models, you need GPUs. And it is clear that there is more access to GPUs, overwhelming access to GPUs in the global north than in the global south. The issue of semiconductor chips gap is the issue that we need to tackle, especially when we are dealing with issues that are of global concerns, like the use of AI to model climate or to understand pandemics and so on and so forth. Then the fourth issue is about applications. We believe that AI must definitely not be weaponized. We believe in the proliferation of AI in good applications, such as in healthcare, such as in transportation, building efficient transportation systems, such as in renewable energy. And of course, given the fact that we cannot necessarily completely eliminate the bad uses of these technologies, we need governance. And the High-Level Advisory Board on AI of the Secretary General of the United Nations is actually dealing with issues of the governance of AI. Where should this governance actually come in? Should it be at the national level or at the international level? I think it should be in both. Should we leave companies to govern themselves, or should we allow, should governments actually govern this technology? I think we need a mixture of both. So this issue of balancing the applications is actually quite crucial. And finally, the AI system must actually be based on good values. Values of security, values of respecting privacy, values of transparency if it does not compromise other issues, such as privacy. If you are going to use AI in hospitals, maybe transparency in terms of the patient information is not desirable. But at the same time, transparency to be able to explain to that patient what is wrong with them is also quite important. So in order to do that, we need good behavior, and behavioral science, which is part of UN 2.0, is absolutely essential to ensure that we use this technology to maximize the good and minimize the bad. We need to create incentives so that good things can actually be done. There can be financial incentives, but also disincentives so that bad things cannot be done. We need to have policies and regulations that are able to regulate this. We need to develop standards so that when we are using in hospitals, the standards actually respect issues of privacy, issues of accuracy, and so on and so forth. Then we also need laws, legislations that are able to regulate and govern this technology. And finally, we need institutional structures that are going to govern this. The standards organizations, the safety, AI safety organizations. And these standards should operate at all levels, in government, in the private sector. And I lastly would like to thank the ITU. The Director General of ITU is doing excellent work in ensuring that AI is shaped for good. And we support AI for Good, Doreen, and we think you are an excellent leader, and we are learning from the knowledge that you are creating, your institute